Josh, thanks for coming on this week's program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Josh, just to begin, so our viewers out there understand, could you give us a little bit of background on Scottsdale Mint, how you got into the business of privately striking bullion products and even why you're in the business in the first place?
Sure. I got a degree in risk management insurance, and my focus became the mining industry. So in my early 20s, I landed what were at the time billion-dollar mining companies in gold, silver, and copper industries. I think one of my first clients was a company by the name of Glamis Gold, which went on to, even though there was a merger, their management team took over Gold Corp, which I believe is currently the number one biggest market cap gold producer in the world. That kind of put me on the map within the mining industry, and suddenly I'm handling most of the largest silver producers and some of the largest copper producers. So I was involved in handling the risk management activities for these companies all over Latin America, Africa, Australia, where they would be building new mine sites, and then looking at ways of moving gold safe and securely from let's say the mountains in the Sierra Madres, and then how do we get that to refineries, and then where does it go from there? So was intimately involved with really kind of the full spectrum of the mining side of the business, and having worked with a lot of the CFOs, I just really fell in love with the metals industry, and at the same time I had traded metals for many years. I think I've had accounts with a couple companies that have gone under. I went through the Refco mess, and then MF Global and John Corzine. I've had accounts with both of those. So I've been involved in various aspects of the industry. And while I really liked insurance business and risk management, my first love was really more around the metal side. Mm-hmm. So in 2008, so about 10 years ago, I wanted to start a business in the space and building a brand that would be maybe a little bit more high-end than the current offering at that time. I feel like there is an aspect of our industry called the retail side. So the mining industry is, obviously there's suit and tie at the C-suite level. Then there's, steel-toe boots and hard hats on the mining side. It's kind of a grown man sandbox. But this metals, when it goes to consumers, sometimes has the viewpoint of a used car salesman. And no offense to any of those that are selling cars out there, but you probably know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Some of them are kind of going after grandma's money, mm-hmm. and trying to sell them things that maybe they don't need. Look, there's nothing wrong with a rare coin or a commemorative or a higher priced piece. But sometimes when you're chasing grandma for her to throw in huge money just so you can get major commissions has kind of tarnished our industry. Mm-hmm. So in 2008, I wanted to build a company that had a more higher end look, feel, and style about it, and have just evolved the company since then. We purchased the investment bar division from a publicly traded company called Materion it was the end of 2011, 2012, right around there. They were a company that they to this day, I think they have over about 2,000 employees. Their primary focus is sputter targets and involving gold, silver, beryllium, various things, and they sell those sputter targets off to the industrial semiconductor world. And at that time, iPads and the Apple iPhones were going insane. A lot of people don't know, but a lot of silver goes into making the screens and some of the internal components. So they were making 40+% margins producing these sputter targets. Their board said, what the heck are we doing in bullion? What are these 1% or less margins? So at the time, my company was one of their top customers, and we got the opportunity to buy that division from them, which essentially went from, at the time, Scottsdale Silver was just having products made with our name on it, and that basically got us into the manufacturing side. which was my goal and objective all along. And since then, we've evolved the company. Now I believe we're minting legal tender coins for, I believe right now, 19 countries that we're under contract with. So we produce bars and coins for various, on a contract level on a few different continents. The famous popular stacker bars. You guys offer some of those. Your website, we make them for different companies overseas. And we produce and just help distribute, or just at the end of the day, we just want to move gold and silver products any way we can in different marketplaces. So that's that's how I got into it, and a quick cap, a really quick summary of how I got here.
I see you guys are ISO 9000 certified, or whatever that number is. When did that occur, by the way?
Our first year of manufacturing. So whenever you take over, we took over that division. Obviously, accreditations don't transfer. Mm-hmm. So that was something right out of the gate that we wanted to make sure that our products were acceptable for retirement accounts.
Right.
So anything that bears our hallmark, or that we can prove at the vault level that Scottsdale manufactured it, is acceptable for retirement accounts.
Great. So I want to go a little bit further, deeper into the weeds about manufacturing, but this is the Metals and Markets wrap for the week. So I feel remiss if we didn't bring up the price action this week, and what your take is on what's going on in the precious metals in the short term.
Yeah. So we've been in six years of kind of grinding, some up, some down, a lot of flatlining, and then obviously I think we saw pre-election before the Trump-Clinton things. The financial markets kind of really tightened, and just basically the volatility shrunk. People didn't know where we were going to go, so we were kind of flat. And then there was a lot of volatility right around election time. The world was going to end. Oh my gosh, Trump is going to be terrible. Gold and silver no one knew. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? But people thought it'd be calamity. And actually, the financial markets have really liked Trump. So the stock market, the general equities, even the U.S. dollar has strengthened. The equities market has just boomed. I don't know, what is it, up 30-40% since he's been in office. So I think a lot of the demand of precious metals is for people that have fear of the U.S. dollar collapsing, fear of economic issues and crisis, inflation. There's a number of reasons why people buy, but I think we've kind of been in a standstill trying to figure out, what's going to happen in the U.S., what's going to happen in the global economy, and right now, depending on who you listen to, things could go really bad. Things could also continue to be really good. So I think that kind of uncertainty has impacted the prices. Obviously, gold and silver have gone up a little bit in the last year or two, but mainly kind of sideways, just kind of choppy. And I think also the lack of, a lot of banks have left the commodities industry. So you have a lot less traders kind of in the mix. And banks don't really make a lot of money if the markets don't move. So they love the kind of the push, the pull up and down. They make money off the volatility. And a lot of those banks are now gone. And a lot of those traders have stepped out of this market, and they're in other markets right now. So I think we don't see a lot of the major swings. However, we saw some just last night and this morning, and both gold and silver were taken down pretty heavily. I don't pretend, I'm not a trader. I'm not a professional trader. I don't make predictions of those kinds of things. But having watched the markets, it is interesting to watch. It obviously impacts production and supply. And I think last night we saw, I don't know what time it was exactly. It felt like it was maybe after 5 o'clock Pacific time. There was a print hit. It was about $1.50 to $2 under the market at that time. And someone was sitting in my office. I said, "That's funny. I haven't seen one of these in a while. They almost look like a miss." Looks like an error on the chart where a couple trades happen well below the market. Sometimes it happens well above the market. Well, if you kind of know how traders work, sometimes they send signals to each other. That's not 100% of the time, but I said, wow, I wonder, is that a signal that this market's going to get taken down? And this morning, obviously, we got, in the middle of the night, we did get hit, and boy, has it sure come down. I mean, so it was off, what, 60 cents here on the day so far.
Yeah, it looks like it was a big takedown. It looks like notional trading volumes may be near record highs for the day. It's pretty intense.
So I think there was, in looking back at the charts again, I'd have to go and look. I think there was a few more prints like this again in the middle of the night, where anytime there's what I call a small amount of trades well outside the scope of the current market bid-ask spread, usually that sometimes that can be that there's some fun and games. So kind of interesting. Obviously I don't call them all the time, but that was a signal, and here we are. Yeah. So kind of interesting.
I presume on down there, and like when there are these short-term brief takedowns in the spot prices of gold and silver, that you do see dip buyers who come in and take advantage and buy bullion, at discount, I suppose.
Absolutely. Most of our business is two-step, meaning we're selling to other distributors around the world. That's the majority of our business. So sometimes there's a lag effect. So Europe opened up. Well, they're already, by the time most of the big takedown, their days is over. So I think usually we kind of see the fall through within the next day, but obviously there is some movement, and I think as silver and gold had kind of, especially silver, had stepped up in the last week or two, a lot of buyers were kind of sitting on the sideline, just waiting to see what would happen. So I would expect, with volatility, usually we see demand pick up. The question is it for an hour, a day, a week, a month?
Yeah, of course. And how difficult that is to plan for. I totally get it.
Yep.
So turning toward the manufacturing process, I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the weeds with you, just to discuss, the manufacturing process between how you would manufacture bullion bars versus coins and rounds. So if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a little bit of an inside view of how that operates.
Sure. Essentially, think, precious metals, they're used in jewelry, they're used in electronics. So, most companies like ourselves, you're doing various melting processes. There's various ways to do that. We do most things in-house. Sometimes we partner with others on certain things. But basically you start with a lot of metal, and then you are trying to produce, larger chunks of a manufacturing run that could then turn into the same product. So we don't make every single product every single day. That's a very inefficient way of working. So we do our best to try to predict, hey, what do I need? What do I need for current customers? Kind of projecting different things over the next 2 to 4 to 6 weeks is a very difficult thing to do in our business. It's amazing. This industry, our customers demand really expensive things made really, really quickly and made really, really nicely with no margins. I think it's one of the only industries like this. I sometimes I wish I was making copper pipes or something to sell at Home Depot, where things sell at ridiculous margins above the price of copper. So. Right. It gets a little tricky, but we always try to do your best to plan. So you've got, let's say, silver or gold products in various stages of the process. That way you can hopefully your lead times in. Where it gets really tricky is when we get a shock. So I don't think we've seen one. It's been 2.5 years since we've seen a shock, but literally you go from in maybe 1 day or 2 days, you can sell out the next month of production in 1 day. So all your planning goes out the door. And being that it's so expensive, our equipment is expensive, the material is expensive, and there's really nothing you can do unless you're a government who has unlimited access to money. We can get into that with the U.S. Mint. where people their stockpiles of coins, for example, just go through the roof, so this is a tricky industry to work with.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Just specifically on the bullion bars, do you guys do pours or presses? Like what are the different types of bars that you guys create?
We do a little bit of everything. I think every mint is, they kind of have their go-to product. Our go-to product is the machine bars, the stacker bars that have the interlocking design with the cavity. There's no right or wrong way in the bar business. Usually people just like the cheapest product, but for those that have ever held a stacker bar in their hands, it's something you just can't own one of, and it's a very popular bar. I can't attest to every single customer out there, but I know in our business we also make poured bars and cast bars and different style. The stacker bar is our number one selling product, and it traditionally sells for a tiny bit more than a regular cast bar. So we really do a number of styles in-house, but our number one bar is that product. So it's a little more expensive to produce it that way, but for some reason it does really well for us. We're not the biggest mint in the world, but I think we do a good job at kind of in our niche.
Yeah. The Tombstone silver bar, the silver nugget bar, I had never seen one in person until we recently shot a little video with it in person. And, I got to tell you, the pictures, they don't do it justice. In person, it's a pretty cool bar. It's got a lot of character. So how do you guys produce that? Is that a pour or is that machined?
I can't share how we do that.
No problem.
But think of it like we put silver into a bag, we shake it, and out it comes. So,
okay,
but
that's good enough.
That's an interesting product. The Tombstone silver nugget. So we produce them in a 5 ounce, a 10 ounce, and a 1 kilo. Mm-hmm. It's the type of product that it's a showpiece. If someone comes over your house, it's a product someone wants to hold it and produce it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Tombstone, Arizona, most people have probably seen the movie Tombstone. That city was founded off of silver mining, and that's just a few hours away from our offices. And that was an interesting way to kind of produce something that looks old world and rugged. And mm-hmm. What's amazing is you get a product like that. We've had, James, months where we've produced over 100,000 ounces of that type of product alone. Now, that was in a busier market time, but it seems like that is the product that a lot of coin dealers and shops all around the world, it just kind of sells as it's just a nice kind of stacking, kind of just build your bullion box at home type product. I've actually sold it to, I know a few billionaires, not that I'm not going to throw names, but what do you buy a billionaire? Mm. Their families come to us and they buy this product. They'll buy the whole cake. They'll buy the wooden box and it'll be stuffed full. But what do you get a billionaire? That's the type of product they like to buy. So
yeah, it's definitely unique. I definitely am impressed by that. In person, it's a lot better than the pictures show.
Well, thanks. We try to produce products that you pictures, hopefully they look really great, but hopefully the products when people get them are even better.
Yeah. And as far as coins, how long have you guys been in the legal tender coin processing? I think, did it start in 2012 or what year did it begin?
I think our first product that we did would have been was a 2014 issue, and that's kind of been evolving probably over the last 3 years. It's grown the most, and then probably just in the last maybe 18 months. Mm-hmm. So you'll probably see a few more new issues, new countries that we'll be bringing to the market. We've had some success with our products. I think I don't try to run the company or to look, hey, let's go be like the U.S. Mint or Canadians or the Swiss or the Aussies. We just want to be unique to ourselves. So as we kind of take a different identity, and I'd say not everything's a home run, but I think we get on base more than we strike out. There's no doubt about that. So it's been an interesting business to work in. It's not without, doing government issues is not without business risk either. Mm-hmm. It can be more difficult. At the end of the day, we are in business to try to make money. I'm not a nonprofit, so we look at any work that we do as at the end of the day, can you make a little profit and things on. So that's the goal of our business and your business and hopefully if you produce products that people enjoy and like, they keep coming back.
Yeah, correct. And again, the coins, that was another, seeing them in person, they are very, very high quality. I mean, they are, I think, on the line of like Perth Mint quality as far as the way that they look. So kudos to you. Well,
thank you. I'll give credit to my people. We've got a great team. And the amazing thing is we don't have a single person in our company that came from the coin business.
Wow.
on our production staff. So, now, a lot of them were from the precious metals industry, but they may have been involved in various aspects of it, and so I think we take a fresh look. So instead of using the same concepts and methods, we try to do things a little different. So sometimes that works in our benefit. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but it definitely gives us a different identity.
Now, we've covered some of the headaches in the minting business. I mean, I know, for instance, when you mint products, your dies can only last so long. What do you find as being the typical duration for coin dies or round dies that you guys use?
Good question. So it depends on how you produce a die and what the intent is for. So, traditional, let's say buffalo rounds, a typical die could last 50 to 100,000 strikes. Maybe it goes for more, but you're having to polish and maintain it as you go. So the question is, do you get 1,000 coins? Do you get 5,000 coins or more out of a polish? So think of it like if you turn a machine on, how many coins do you spit out before you have to turn that machine off and do a change out? But we also produce coins. I'm trying to think, like our Cayman Islands Marlin coin. I think that coin is struck 6 times.
Wow.
So it's done on it's done. There's a lot of more tender loving care that goes into those coins. So a die is not going to last as many coins. So it's a slower process. There's different ways that we do to kind of get an end result. So obviously we can't sell a Marlin coin for the same exact price as a buffalo round, but hopefully the customer can see that there's a little difference there. But that's been a great seller. That's a great example of like the differences between coins, and that's still on the bullion side. There are proof coins that you produce. So that we call that a proof like.
Right.
So that's if someone were to send it off to grading. Again, I'm not a huge grading person, but a lot of people do grade our coins. So I think the vast majority come back 79s and 69, 70 and 69s.
Yeah.
So which is I believe a top score. So there's a few companies that kind of specialize in that world. We really don't get into that too much on our end. But then if you take a coin like a proof coin, it can go through so much touching and handling, and almost to where we're petting the coin. And I say that in a joking manner, but you look at how many pieces can you make in an hour, and so some of our coins go through like a lot of work. So that just has to do with the detail that goes into both the blank, making sure it's perfect. Making sure the die is perfect. So there's points where we only get a couple strikes.
Right.
We get 50 strikes. It can go back and forth in terms of how much you can do. So it makes I guess the bullion business, it makes it a little more interesting rather than just kind of slamming and jamming.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, I just wanted to kind of get your feel for the longer term vision for precious metals and bullion industry and your company in general, if you don't mind.
Sure. I think there's definitely some headwinds out there in the current marketplace. I look at it as, money's not really made or lost, it's just transferred. So I think our industry is seeing, competitive landscape change mainly in the stock market. Coin dealers and mints, I guess we kind of compete with each other, but really the money's in the stock market. The money's maybe some over chasing crypto. There's a lot in real estate right now. But what we will see is things will change again. And when I think you're going to see at some point when the stock market does decide to get rocky, I don't know if that's going to be at a higher level or wherever, but we could see some massive corrections. That's when money flows, come right back in. They buy bars, they buy coins, premiums start to rise. That's where there's a lot of people now that are kind of, building their positions during times that's quieter. They're starting to add. And it's almost like people have gotten frustrated with silver and gold, and I understand that. Because there's a right time to buy and sell everything. But there's a lot of people that have also forgotten maybe why they got into it. Do you buy this to become, a multi-millionaire from a couple grand? No. Maybe crypto can give you that kind of juice, but gold and silver is not. But most people buy it because it's a hedge against their entire life. You work, if most of us are probably in the United States, listen to this one, but you work in the United States, your retirement is probably based on our economy, right? You've got US dollars. Everything in your life is pretty much hedged to the American economy in the way we go. So a lot of times people look at it from that construct going, well, my silver and gold it's sitting in a vault somewhere and I got to pay a vault storage fee. And so suddenly it's just like, it's not doing as well as what my stockbroker's showing me. Look, I'm up 20, 30% over the last couple of years. And they look at silver and gold and they're like, it's just kind of, bumping along here. But people kind of do forget that that's a store of wealth. It's an asset that truly is building for your family and for a lot of it's generational wealth. And so for those that I am encouraged. A lot of times people say that our industry is just full of old guys, at the coin shows. But I am encouraged. It seems like the younger generation that's coming up, they may not have access to big money yet. Give them time. But they're taking more responsibility. I'm not saying maybe the ones, not saying all of them, but it seems like even ones in high school right now, there's a sense of taking responsibility, thinking for themselves and saving for themselves. We can't rely on the government.
Right.
And, if you look at countries around the world, Germany is the biggest coin market in the world. Why is that? Because they've gone through, some of the elderly people have gone through 2 currency wipeouts. So, we've not experienced that in the United States. And again, I can't predict it. I'm not expecting it to happen tomorrow, but these types of products are something that's off the grid. It's not in a bank account. It's not just, digital assets that can be easily hacked, taken from you, whatever. So people are, I think the younger generation, even though maybe they don't have the big money yet, I do see some encouragement there. So that's kind of where I see the marketplace going. I think there's some headwinds in the short term, just based on the stock market activity. But I think there's some exciting things that our company is going to be announcing that could be market changing in terms of the amount of silver that can end up being taken off the market and into some new facets that don't exist right now. So I think there's some exciting reasons to be positioning now. Maybe people always say I didn't know when to sell real estate back in 2006, 7, 8. Well, we're kind of starting to see that again. Not to say it can't go up again. So this could be an interesting time for people to start positioning.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you for taking the time today